right, welcome everybody back to Performance Anxiety. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun junk because we've got a really good show today and I'm super excited. How about you, Joan?
I'm great. I'm so excited, Lisa.
All right, well, we're going to be talking burlesque today with the one and only Sally B. Dash.
Yay! Welcome, Sally B. Dash.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. So, Sally, you are over in Gainesville is where you primarily
Correct.
do your stuff. Okay. So, let's just dive right in and talk to her. So, Joan, do you have any questions for her right off the bat?
Yeah. So I would like to know first off, so like, what's your origin story as far as, getting involved in performance art and burlesque specifically, but in general?
Well, always. I have always been on a stage.
Nice.
My mom put me in dance class when I was not quite 3 because I couldn't sit still. And apparently the first time I saw myself in the mirror in like a leotard and tap shoes, I was just like hooked and was like, yep, that's it. And I danced in a studio that did a lot of the like performances around town, all the festivals and the whatever. Like, so I was just always, on stage, and she was a very like, just sell it, kids, kind of school of dance. And then I did a lot of theater in college and community theater in Gainesville before I saw a casting call for burlesque. A friend tagged in it. A gal was about 10 years ago, getting a group going in Gainesville. And I was like, I have this variety of skills. And she's like, great. And I guess it was August of 2013. I did my first solo burlesque performance.
Nice. Wow.
And it was a lot of fun and I was really good at it. So I just kept going.
And that was in Gainesville?
That was in Gainesville. Yeah.
I'm going to test your knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do you know kind of the history of burlesque at all?
A bit. Not as well. I could not recite to you a history of burlesque as well as perhaps.
No, I couldn't either, which is why I'm asking.
But it is a parody art form that has American art form. It's been going on for a long, long time. And I know that the current burlesque revival got started in about the 90s. Joe Boobs Weldon out of New York kind of is known as the modern
Did you
burlesque
just say
mother.
Joe Boobs Weldon?
Joe Boobs.
That's awesome. I love that.
I was just gonna ask that. I was like, did I hear Joe Boobs?
Yeah.
So cool.
That's awesome.
So she was like a person who, we generally credit with taking like from strip club style stripping and adding the performative, like costumey, like storytelling kind of part back into it where that had gone out for a while and stripping was like strip club style stripping for a long time. So she kind of started, doing things a little differently after like the fancy era of 80s strip clubs and whatnot. So,
Okay. Did they do any form of burlesque kind of like back in the old days where it was like the old timey shows and stuff like that?
Like vaudeville, it was involved in a lot of vaudeville. It was a component of vaudeville shows often. And, if you think like the Moulin Rouge or, that style was, like burlesque where you get to see a little flash of something.
Scandalous.
But usually what people mean today when they say burlesque is a striptease of like a highly costumed striptease of some point. Although it traditionally, I think burlesque was more of like a parody, like a exaggeration of femininity or whatever. So not necessarily striptease, but today, if people saying burlesque, usually.
Well, what's changed for you over the last 10 years because of this? It's a big question.
I know. Oh my goodness. What has changed?
So you mentioned before that, kind of going off of Lisa's question and like kind of paring it down a little bit. You said before you did a lot of community theater and you were in dance. Mm-hmm. When you first did burlesque, did you kind of go, oh, this is what I want to do performance wise and like kind of make the switch, or did you continue to do those other performance outlets?
I really made the switch, and a part of that is because I realized I was like, oh, I can get paid to do this.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Yep. I love community theater, and it meant it I got so much out of and had so many wonderful experiences doing community theater. But, it's a huge commitment, especially to do a big musical with like a full month run and, like 2 months of rehearsals, 3 to 5 nights a week or whatever the size of your role demands.
Yeah, it's like a part-time job that you don't get paid to do.
And I had an amazing, I got to do some amazing shows, but the last role that I did was I got to play Roz in 9 to 5, the musical.
Oh, nice.
And she has that really great song, Heart to Heart, which is like singing about all the things that she would do to Mr. Hart if she ever got the chance. And that was, I think, the first performance I got to do on stage where that was really like kind of tapping into that energy of that like burlesque energy. So, and then, the very next year, burlesque started, and it was really satisfying in different ways different than like being directed in someone else's artistic vision. Like suddenly I'm making all my choices. Like I decide what music I do, what costume I do, how I want to do it, and I do get other people's feedback if I feel like I need it to problem solve and work out stuff. But
did you struggle at first? Like, did you have anxiety about, the strip part of the performance?
Not about the nudity. I grew up with hippie parents. I was known in college for wearing as little clothing as possible on many occasions. So literally no one in my family was surprised at all when I was like, hey, I'm doing burlesque now. And they're like, my parents are very proud. They love it. They're
That's amazing.
They're very proud of my art.
That's so awesome.
What I struggled with at first a lot was just planning the act, like, getting everything in and having it, over choreographing it, overworking it, even at the beginning where like I planned out this huge complicated dance number. And then I finally got all my costume pieces on and realized I left myself no time to do anything except try to get all these costume pieces off as fast as possible because it was like, too much. So that was, at the beginning, that was where I struggled. Now, if I'm going to have anxiety, it's going to be like producer related anxiety.
Yeah, because I was going to say you switched to producer. You still perform.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. But you also do all the other things too.
Which has its own set of anxiety going to a show where you're like, well, hey, I'm responsible for it. And then when everything else is in order, then I can finally think about myself and like get myself ready, like show first and then. So.
Yeah. Talk about moving into that producer phase.
Well, the show that I had been performing in, the person who was doing it got burnt out on producing, which is very easy to do. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money and, you gotta, so she got burnt out and was done with it. And rather than one particular show, I think in January of 2015, I think it was, instead of canceling that show, I decided to step in and take it on. And when we had Market Street as a venue for a couple years up in Gainesville, I produced a lot of shows. And in 2016, I produced 29 shows.
Wow.
Which was too many.
Just that year?
Just that one year.
Oh my gosh.
That was too many. I don't do that many anymore.
If anybody that's not local is watching, it's Market Street was kind of a bar club. It was a really unique space. They had a stage in the back and it was really a cool space.
And it was blessed for a couple years of all of us really trying to come into our art and figure out what we even really wanted to do and what worked. Like, we were really lucky to have that as a space where we could pretty much do whatever we wanted for a couple years. And it was, I don't miss the days in some ways because it's nice to be able to show up and like you not have to, clean the venue in addition to setting up everything, like do everything. We had to set up our own stuff and clean up completely afterwards.
Well, because the owner was also a part of the burlesque.
Yeah. So it was like all us all the time, which is an extra lot of stress to put on top of trying to, make a show happen. But it was fun. We were scrappy and we, got to experiment and had some really amazing shows in that space.
That's really cool.
I've just kept going. I mean, I've also kind of always put events together and been good at planning things. I come from a conference planning background also.
Okay.
So a lot of it was a pretty natural step into like, organizing the show and getting a really good show on stage.
Well, how many shows do you do now? I mean, because obviously you had a lull during 2020 and we can come back to that, but how many shows per year do you do now?
So I produce for a bunch of different groups. So for the Mischievous Madams, we do 2 big shows a year, one in the fall, one in the spring. And those have turned into like pretty big productions with group acts and all kinds of stuff. So they take a lot of of prep, my live music show, Sally B's Dashing Review, with the live swing band, Swing Theory. Those I do 3 or 4 a year, kind of depending on how that works out. And then the clown show, Dr. Sin's Freak Out and Musical Sideshow.
About the clown show. We'll circle back to that for sure.
We just did a big tour, our first 3-city clown tour, which was amazing. I would like to take us on another tour sometime. We'll see, we're all.
Yeah. Did you produce the clown show as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Girl.
And I think those are, and then a couple one-off things, like me and Jenny Castle just produced the Best Little Valentine show in Gainesville,
which I got to see last night.
Did you?
It was so good.
Oh,
it was so good.
I'm
so many beautiful, amazing performers.
I can't wait to watch it. I just was peeking through the curtain last night, so I have the whole live stream video. And I cannot wait to watch it. I will be doing that this weekend while I have my Valentine's date with my sweetie.
Yeah, and not even trying to blow smoke up your ass, but you and Jenny Castle just have such a chemistry together on stage. And
I know.
Good. Those duets that you guys do are so funny and so creative.
I was jealous I'm not a night person and didn't come and see that.
Well, I only really got to see it because I was in Gainesville for work all day. So I was like, I could go see the show. Yay!
Right. Well, that's a way to put a fun spin on a day in Gainesville for work. Yeah. I met Jenny Castle in 2013, right in that first group, and that is partnership has changed my life. I've never met someone with whom the creativity just clicked,
and it shows
so much.
It's so obvious when you two are on stage together.
Absolutely. And Jenny Castle was the owner of Market Street.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, before we kind of dive into that clown relationship that all formed in there and stuff like that, can you tell me a little bit how you dealt with 2020 and all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So I had been kind of reaching a point of burnout right before it was happening, right before it got started. I was becoming exhausted and not really looking forward to the next year of shows. I was like, oh, okay, well, we got to do this show in this month and this show in this month. And I really wasn't that excited about it. So in a lot of ways, I actually really welcomed the break and the excuse to step away. And I was also just really burnt out about having to be on my computer and sit down and do computer work. So I was like, do I want to try to live stream stuff and get the equipment and make that good and learn the skills needed for that? No, I don't. And I ran away from my computer. I didn't even turn that thing on for a month and a half at least.
Wow.
And I did a lot of work in my yard and did other stuff. I lost a dear friend really soon into the pandemic. So a really dear burlesque friend. So then kind of burlesque and grief were all tied up together for a while. And so coming back into burlesque was also going to be coming back and, facing that grief. The first show I did produce, again, was a benefit for, or a remembrance show for her.
Yeah.
So that, it was just, there was a lot rolled into it, but I did participate in one virtual show. It was a Star Trek themed show that was
nice,
all pre-recorded. Yeah, produced by Phoenix Midnight. It was a lot of fun, and so it was all pre-recorded acts that we, everyone produced on their own and sent in, and then it was, put together as a package with a fun host, and sold as a package and served up so you could watch the whole show, and it was really fun and
very cool.
Did a Luoxana Troy.
Of course.
Who else would I be? And it was really fun because that actually the Luoxana Troy, I was supposed to do that for the first time in March of 2020, and that was the show, one of the shows that got canceled. That never happened.
Yeah,
was that show?
So when did you finally start coming back to live shows?
October of 2020. I guess we did, that was when we did our memorial show for Formaldehyde Flower. And so then, we kind of came back slowly. We did that. I did a holiday show with the live band and just kind of started picking back up. People were ready for it. They came out.
Yeah.
They were ready. We did for a while our venue, like we were doing like, masking and vaccine requirement and stuff at the beginning. And, and then at some point, just, all right, this is just how we live in the world now.
Yeah.
But our venue put in live streaming capabilities as part of their effort to, stay relevant when everything was shut down. And so now we can live stream our shows just easily. Like I don't have to do any work for it. And we get to live stream our shows, which is really cool because people have been tuning in and watching our shows.
It's so cool.
We had a whole group of people watching from New Zealand for our clown
Wow.
show.
Nice.
Like a bunch of cast members, friends.
Damn.
Watching
Oh,
from New
that's
Zealand.
amazing.
So
And
cool.
we had at least one person watching from Montreal. So, it's been an international audience.
That's amazing.
And I didn't have to learn how to do live streaming.
That's
great.
amazing. Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah.
We
That's
have
awesome.
a couple of things here we could teach you. We're learning too.
Yeah. I know, right? It's like to be an independent artist. I mean, you got to be your own like booking agent, like bookkeeper, like social media person, choreographer, designer, pack mule, like everything. You have to do all of
all that stuff. I actually rented out the studio space for the first time today. And
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
And so I was producing and I'm doing all this stuff. And he says, it's so professional. You like remember everything. And I'm like, a lot of errors have happened. The checklist is because I have not done this in the past. That's how you learn.
We learn from our
Absolutely.
mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did the clown show come about?
Oh my goodness.
With our dear friend Becky Sin.
Well, yes. So I've actually known Becky for many years. I met her at an Oscar party that some mutual friends throw, very serious Oscar party with like a weighted ballot and like all that.
Oh my.
And the very first one of those that I went to, the mutual friend was like, hey, you two need to know each other. Becky is an amazing singer-songwriter in Ocala. You do performance stuff. Y'all just need to know each other. And I was like, all right, cool. And then, we saw each other just kind of around occasionally. Ran into her at a Red Elvis's show once. That was really fun. And then when we started doing the burlesque 10 years ago, Becky was coming to shows and I introduced her to Jenny Castle and they really hit it off and they got together to do some stuff. They're like, Jenny brought a suitcase of props. Becky played one of her songs and Jenny did a bunch of weird stuff with all the silly stuff she brought in her suitcase and people just went bananas for it. And she was like, all right, well, I guess we're a thing now, and called it Dr. Sin's Freak Out, a Musical Sideshow, then pulled me in and I was in the very next performance with them. And
were you at her album thing? I know Jenny was doing Fire there, but I can't remember her album.
Her first album?
Yeah, Becky's album release.
That was not Jenny.
That wasn't Jenny.
It wasn't Jenny. I don't remember who that was, but that was before she met Jenny, but I was there.
You were there. Okay.
I was there.
Okay.
That was, I was on my birthday that year. It was my birthday celebration.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I barely knew all of you at that.
Yeah.
I barely knew
Yeah.
Becky, I think, at that point. And it was just such a cool thing.
Yeah, it was
see.
really cool. And it almost like got rained out, but then it
worked
did it
out,
for just enough to like.
Yeah, I mean,
have
there was
the
like,
show.
that was the whole big thing because there was games. It was like a carnival because there was carnival games and fire dancing and all kinds of. Did you go to that, Joan?
I don't remember being there.
Yeah. I mean,
I was what?
I have no recollection of it.
About
11
11 years ago.
11 years ago.
Yeah.
I think at that time I was really busy with theater and just doing show after show after show and working too. So I don't think I was able to go to that.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about just burlesque in general.
Sure.
And Joan, you might have some questions too that you can answer because you have been in burlesque.
That I can well,
yeah.
I've hosted burlesque. I'm
Very well, I might add.
Oh, well, thank you. That actually means a lot to hear.
No, I just want to know, because I know you have a husband and you've had a husband the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's start with that, because let's start with the most complicated question.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, sure.
Dive right into your personal life. Yeah, why not?
You have a husband?
Yeah.
That's
I
the
do.
question.
Yeah, you have a husband and he lets you do this?
Oh my God. I mean, he knew he was married, who he was marrying. The very first thing I ever said to him was, "Hi, I'm Katie, and I have 2 boyfriends." And he was like, "All right." So yeah, he
you want to be my third?
He knew what he was getting into. And I mean, he loves it. He loves the shows. He's participated in the clown shows before. He juggles a bit.
Oh, fantastic.
So Prince Elroy has made his appearance in a clown show or 2.
Yeah. I love it.
But I
Prince
mean,
Elroy.
The way that it did put a stress on our relationship for a while is that year I produced 29 shows.
Yeah, that
and was never home. I mean, it was more about that than the nudity or the scandalous nature of the art I'm doing. It's more about like, wow, this takes a lot of your time and resources. Like, I miss you. Like, I don't think we took a trip together for like 2 or 3 years, like a substantial trip, because I was just, nope, I got to show that weekend. Nope, got to show that weekend. Nope, got to show that weekend. Sorry. I'm like, oh, I booked out my whole year already. Sorry.
Yeah. Wow.
Oops.
Love you. Bye.
Pretty much. So, finding some more work-life balance with Burlesque, of like trying to really determine, and it's a constant battle, really, like how much makes it still fun and not feel like it's a drudgery, because it's supposed to be my art. This is my creative expression. Like, I don't, like, it is a job, and I do rely on the income, but I also don't want to do so much of it that I don't.
That you burn out.
That I burn out.
Yeah.
And also, producing, I don't really make that much money when I'm actually producing. If I actually want to make money in Burlesque, I go be in someone else's show.
Yeah.
And just show up and worry about myself and get paid to perform. And that's very nice.
Yeah. What can you guys tell us about Burlesque, like for other women and or even the viewer? I mean,
it's just so fun. It can be anything, because whatever I don't know, thing you're into, you can do Burlesque about it. It can take any feel, any form. It can be serious and funny and scary. There's the whole horror-esque genre, which is not my genre, but it's a very big genre.
Yeah.
And nerd stuff. And
the one thing I've really noticed and noted, watching Burlesque performers, especially this last year, getting back into emceeing regularly. And I didn't really even note this, because my first introduction to Burlesque was I hosted a show that a friend of mine produced over at Insomniac, and that was 10 years ago.
Yeah,
that was my first encounter with Becky Sin, actually. Because she came and was a part of the second show.
Yeah. And I think didn't a troupe come up from Orlando first?
That was after.
That was after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe that was one of her earliest performances. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was one of the first times she had been playing music forever. But I think it was one of her earliest actual getting on stage thing. So it was cool to be part of that and see her transition over the years. But the one thing I've noticed, especially this year, is the number of performers that I've witnessed become empowered over time by it.
Hearing people scream like mad in excited craziness because you're doing something on stage, especially if it's revealing a part of your body, that is some potent, awesome stuff.
It's it's so powerful because I have people in these shows that I've worked with, a few of them whom I've directed before, and you see them do one show and then the next and then the next, and their demeanor changes, the way they carry themselves in everyday life, the way they speak, the way they carry their posture.
Yeah.
And just there's a brightness about them because they're doing this now, and they feel good about themselves, and I love that.
One of the things that I absolutely love as a spectator is the diversity in body shapes and sizes, and still hearing the audience get super excited, whether you have a really large girl or a really small girl or anywhere in between. And I think that's so cool. I feel like Burlesque opens that door more.
And age too.
Age, yeah.
Yeah.
What? How old do you think some of the workers, some of the girls that you've worked with, or guys even?
Well, at the youngest end, burlesque does keep you young, because I'm 41 now, and I kind of routinely are meeting these awesome, amazing people who are in their early 20s and kind of everywhere, in between. But it does keep you young. You keep hip with the kids, and they can teach you how to use the social media. They can teach you the tricks on the Instagram.
Teach you the right.
I was going to say it does
Too
keep
many
you young.
hashtags.
Yeah. It does keep you young, because I like to go to bed at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm 41 too.
Yeah.
Enough sleep keeps you young too, though.
Yeah,
So.
Over the pandemic, I did find that I was routinely going to bed at 10 o'clock. Like when I didn't have any, which is early for me. I've kind of always considered myself a night owl, and midnight is the earliest I want to go to bed. But no, I was like, oh no, it's nice to go to sleep at 10. No,
yeah. It feels good. And then I get up in the morning and I look at the sunrise. And
So have you had other dancers and stuff that are older than you that are still performing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jenny Castle is older than me by 4 years, I think. And in Gainesville, and Delicate Flower just turned 50 and started doing burlesque at 40 something.
Wow.
So,
that's fantastic.
It's so really cool. Burlesque is entertaining when you have put thought into your costume and you have a plan on stage. It's about what you're doing. And if you have enough attitude, anyone can be entertaining at it.
What would be the biggest advice for somebody that was thinking about going into burlesque?
I would say to get in touch with look at enough stuff or expose yourself to enough of different types of burlesque to get a sense of what you want, what direction you want to go. Mm-hmm. And then whatever feels the strongest, whatever you're most excited about, whether it be a costume, you really want to wear a corseted thing with a flowy gown, or if you find a vintage robe that's really beautiful, that really speaks to you, that you want to try to build a costume around, some element that you're really, really excited about, a song that you just cannot get out of your brain, and you just hear that drum roll and you just know you want to shake your boobies to that drum roll, and you hear that amazing saxophone part, and you just want to do this grindy thing to that saxophone part. Listen to music with thinking about that, ooh, what is that? Ooh, what do I want to do that to that? Or if a character, if you're a nerdless performer or something, you want to be that, and you're I really want to take this character and take her clothes off about it, solve, just, you have to pick something that really draws you in, and just build from there. I think you just have to kind of start creating an act. You can take some classes and learning from people is always super, super helpful. But I think in the end, burlesque is a very personal art form, and you have to be very self-motivated to really do it. Cause you're a one person theater act. So you have to make your own costumes or acquire all your own costumes. No one's going to come and costume you for you. So you just have to have them, the drive to do it. And if you actually want to really do it. But if you just, want to play around for funsies with stuff that's in your closet, fabulous stuff in your closet, just put on something good and dance around and feel yourself, and see what shakes loose.
What would you say to anyone who wants to try burlesque but is maybe is actually self-conscious about the stripping portion of it, or maybe the bodily awareness, a little bit self-conscious about that?
You don't have to be any more naked than you want to be. Mm-hmm. You can take off layers while still leaving a corset that shapes you a way that you like. You Beautiful. Can have stockings on. You can, you don't have to be as naked as you want. And as I've done burlesque longer, I used to want to be more covered. I used to always wear full tights, fishnets with a stunt thong underneath to make sure I was really, protected. I used to do bigger pasties at first, even. I guess my dancer part of me, coming from a dance background, I just wanted to make sure my lips are all tucked and tidy,
everything is all tucked in, and
but I was always really fine with my boobs being out. And so as I've done burlesque longer, I have I'll go out in tiny thongs that I would have never thought about going on stage in earlier in my career. So I've kind of loosened up on letting my butt fly free.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, you can costume to your desire. You get to create the silhouette you want. I mean,
Joan, have you ever thought of actually doing burlesque versus just hosting burlesque?
I have. I've thought about it. That's about as far as I've gotten. Well, I'm not good at making costumes, or rather, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's understandable.
That's
fair. That's fair.
It's just not. It's not who I am.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite costumes that you?
Oh my God. I love my tortoise costume, that green corset that I've rhinestone. That was the most elaborate thing I've ever rhinestone, like trying to do that like diamond-y reptile pattern in rhinestones, like all around the corset. So, and the green, Sally Sucre made me some amazing panties with this like mesh cutout in the front that are the same like hexagon pattern. And yeah, that's my favorite costume. I love it. And it's also very versatile because it's a basic green set and does go with my tortoise act, but I can wear it under any other green gowns. And I've been able to use that costume a lot. So that is
perfect.
That is a thing to think about when you're making burlesque costumes. Like if you don't have endless funds, which I mean, who of us does?
Right.
Like trying, being thoughtful about like making good base sets that you can use under other things and get your make them work for you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I was going to ask if you have anything coming up, any shows coming up that you want to mention.
I do. I will mention. So I'm not going to be producing anything for a little while, which I'm very excited about because I can have a break. But the end of April 29th, the Mischievous Madams will be celebrating their 10th anniversary.
Woo!
And
nice.
We will have that show in Gainesville. It'll also be live streamed worldwide. So April 29th, it's a Saturday. There isn't anything out there about it yet, except it's on our calendar. But do
you guys have a Facebook page that people?
We do. Mischievous Madams Burlesque Troupe. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We even have a website. I think I even updated it within the last year too. How about that?
Yeah, that actually reminds me. I do have one other question for you. Last night at the show, you mentioned the Hogtown Alliance.
Yes.
Would you talk about that just a little bit?
I will. Yeah. So several years ago, when just Gainesville scene was really bustling. Like we just had lots of new people, lots of new shows happening. We a couple times ended up having shows on the same night as other local things. And we're like, we are too small of a city. This cannot happen. We need to make sure that we can communicate and coordinate and have a calendar, a central calendar, so that we know what we're doing, so we cannot avoid booking over each other, and also help us promote and have like one place where everything is. So we started the Hogtown Burlesque and Drag Alliance, and Hogtown was an old name of Gainesville.
Okay,
which is the reason for that. So we have a Facebook page, Instagram, a website, and we try to keep that updated with everything. And we have a Google Calendar that you can subscribe to. We try to keep that updated with all the shows that are happening in Gainesville, drag and burlesque.
That is fantastic.
That's so cool. And that's such a wonderful
really helpful.
way. Yeah, that's such a wonderful way to support each other too.
Yeah,
it's really awesome.
And it's just very useful. Like I always, if I'm going to book something, I always go check the calendar. And my Valentine's Day show actually, initially when I was booking that, was going to be on the 12th, and then there was going to be another show on the 12th in Gainesville. So we ended up doing, I was between the two. I couldn't really decide, what will be better. And I ended up going with the 14th, which I'm glad I did, because then I could come see your show. And then also, the bird thing was happening anyway. So
what?
Go Birds.
The Super Bowl.
I had a show. I didn't know anything about it.
I know, right? I had a show in Super Bowl Sunday last year, and I still got like 90 people to come out and not watch football.
Yeah, because not all of us watch football.
I know, right?
Not all of us give a shit about that.
I know. Yeah.
And then there's Dr.
Sin's Freak Island Musical Sideshow,
which is on both Facebook and Instagram.
And Instagram. And we also have a website. And we will be doing some more shows again at some point this year, although I have no idea when that will be. Yeah. And then May 21st will be my next live music show with the live swing band, featuring the vocals of Becky Sin and Swing Theory and stuff. I'm working on casting that show right now, so we should have some information out about that pretty soon.
And where do you guys travel? Like, what cities do you normally take that show to?
Well, so far we have taken it to Orlando and to Tallahassee. Okay. My dream is to take it to New Orleans.
Beautiful.
I think that would workout. I think that would be a good place for us to go. And
I think it would do very well there.
Of, making a couple stops, on the way there, back or whatnot. So that plan is in its infancy, but I'm going to put that out there. Oh, anyone listening has a great venue in New Orleans.
Get a hold of Dr.
You never know who's listening.
Learned a lot. The tour, our first little baby tour where we didn't even have to spend the night anywhere, was fun, but it was theater. It was the magic of theater. And
so tell, I want you, before we end it, she does have a story she needs to tell because it's the tenacity of producing, things that happen in live performance, and lessons learned from people who have never done tours before, right? So it's got all of those lovely components. So share that story.
Okay. So Dr. Sin's Freak Out, the musical sideshow. We are a live original music clown cabaret featuring mostly Becky Sin's original music. She is the host and singer, and she guides us through our adventure in the show. She is critical. She is very big part of the show.
Her name's in the
is in the title. The name of our band. I mean, so Becky unfortunately was really struggling with her voice, and we had 3 shows in a row, a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in 3 different cities, and she made it through Friday. She made it through Saturday. We did do some modifications on Saturday by way of using her album tracks for our guest performers, which they had been rehearsing with anyway, and that just took a little pressure off her voice. And then Jenny Castle and our other clown, Darian Credible, took over in the second half of the show, like doing some of the talking that Becky would normally, just to kind of take a little more pressure off. And we made it through the show, and it was great. It was great. Sold out show.
So real quick, do you think, because Becky performs regularly all the time. So do you think it was just so many shows in one evening?
She had never lost her voice before. Yeah. She said this is the first time in her entire singing career that she has ever lost her voice, even having colds before.
That is crazy.
She did test for COVID. She didn't have COVID, but she just was really losing her voice. So, throat coat tea and her little steamer and, the strength of her instrument. Mm-hmm. And she made it through the first 2 nights, but she woke up Sunday morning with zero voice, none, not a sound coming out. And so I woke up at 9:20 that morning to, I'm so sorry, you guys. I cannot do the show. I have no voice. I'm sick. And so I called Jenny Castle and was like, all right, like, what are we going to do? And she's like, well, we know we're already going to use as many tracks as possible. So we'll start there. I'll get up. I'll come over. So I went on my computer, started making the playlist and just, figuring out what all tracks we had. In the meantime, Jenny had an idea of who we could call in to be our host to say all of the lines and tell the whole story. So we called Betty Shiraz, and she phone called her, at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, when you call
Hello? She answers. All right, here's the situation. Just laid it out. She was available. We had to find her some babysitting, but we did that too.
Clown. How far did she have to drive? Because where were you guys?
She lives in Micanopy.
Okay.
So she's relatively local, but has been mostly retired, hasn't done a lot of shows.
But where was the clown? I mean, like
this was our Gainesville show.
Okay. So it's kind of your
it was our big
show.
Homecoming Gainesville show.
Okay.
So we had our host, and we had album tracks from her last album, Lamb and Lioness, available everywhere you get CDs and music and things. We had we did most of the songs on that track. So we had all of those covered. And then we had like 3 or 4 songs that we didn't have good recordings for. And my amazing father, who was playing bass in the band for us, learned the rest of the songs, and he did covered the last 4 songs. And he's just a confident enough musician that with words and chords, he could, make it happen. And we did it. Like, we set the show up that, just introduced it like normal, but then Dr. Sin doesn't make her entrance. So then, oh no, there's a call on the clown horn. What is that? Oh no, Dr. Sin, what do you mean you can't come in? Oh no, what do you mean you've lost your voice? What are we going to do? Yeah. Oh, we better call the clown temp agency. Yeah. Hello, it's a clown emergency. Send us your best. And then enters Betty Shiraz, gets her script, took her place, and we just did the rest of the show, as is. And I printed out a big big head of Becky.
It was amazing.
So that
did you get to see that too?
I was at that show.
Are you really?
Yeah.
And people, unless people really knew and had seen us before, they didn't know. They just thought that was the show. And I know it was really hard for Becky watching the live stream at home, sick, not being able to do this thing that we've been working so hard on. So I know that Becky, had a rough night. And also I think hearing my dad, stumble his way through her songs.
But you guys handled it so gracefully.
We did. And yeah, I really don't have words for it. I mean, it was just such a testament to everyone's, flexibility and chops and it was like the thing where I felt, that anxiety, that just like, are we going to freak out about this? It was just like back there, and I was like, I don't have time for you. We just got to do this stuff. So I will talk to you later. And then I cried real tears of relief at the end of the show when we did the bows. I cried real tears of we did it. And I didn't really doubt we would, but also the fact that we had was.
Well, yeah. I mean, pulling that together last minute and figuring out what are we going to do. And especially like you said, because Becky,
I know,
she's like the main part of the show.
It sounds almost silly to say this, but it feels like that same thing of like when like a mother has to rescue her child that's stuck under the car and she like has, that adrenaline kicks in. It's like that same thing of where like, what are we going to do? Like, well, you're just going to figure it out.
You're just going to figure it out. We're going to do it.
It's amazing when it happens.
Yeah. And, and like canceling the show was never an option. We had sold a bunch of tickets. Jenny Castle got everyone in Gainesville to come to that show. I mean, we had a huge.
And people would have understood.
They would have understood, but it was like, no.
It's like, no, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Can't. Jen, you just had a similar experience of being pulled in on a show kind of the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. The most recent show at the Ocala Civic Theater, 3 of the actors got sick. And one of them got sick on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Like that afternoon, she was very, very ill. So I got a call from the artistic director and volunteer coordinator saying, "Hey, Joan, we need an actor to fill in this role. And can you do it?" I was like right now? I'm going to be on book. They're like, yeah, we know. I'm like, okay. They're like, can you come in for costume fitting and get your blocking like as soon as possible? And I was like, yeah, I can come in this afternoon to do that. So, and we did it and we pulled it off. And
Amazing.
At first I was like, this audience isn't going to be okay with this. Like, cause I'm on script. They're not gonna, but they were fine with it.
Mm-hmm. I've seen productions where someone was on book for a variety of reasons on stage. And you just it's just how it is. It's live theater.
Yeah.
And I talked to people like other actors after that who were like, I could never do that. I'm like, yeah, you could.
Yeah,
you could.
Totally
when you have to do it.
The show.
The show must go on. Like,
it must.
When you're like, all right, we're doing it, then it just something kicks in and it feels really good afterwards too.
Mm-hmm. It does. Was definitely. I still haven't quite come down from that high, actually.
Yeah, I bet. I can imagine.
Well, Sally, thank you so much for being on our show.
For having me.
Thank you for coming on.
It was amazing. You are our very first guest.
Yeah.
I know. I'm so excited.
Well, I love being someone's first.
Yes. It's fantastic. But thank you, everybody, for joining us here in Performance Anxiety. I'm Lisa Anderson, and my co-host is Joan and Elizabeth. And we were just talking with Sally B. Dash. Please make sure and go check out all of her social media. We'll do our best to put all the links in the description for you. And we will see you next time on Performance Anxiety.